Imagine this. What if 300 years of human history from roughly 614 to 911 AD were completely fabricated? That's the bold claim made by German historian Heribert Illig in the 1990s. According to him, heavyweights like Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII orchestrated a grand historical deception to manipulate the calendar. Their goal? To make it appear they were living in the symbolic year 1000 AD. To pull this off, Illig argues they altered historical documents, inserted phantom years, and essentially rewrote history. The result? An early Middle Ages that may have been little more than a fabricated buffer zone, a historical mirage stretching over 3 centuries. So, how does one go about erasing, or rather inventing, 3 whole centuries? According to Illig, this wasn't some slapdash medieval prank. It was a coordinated effort involving the fabrication of documents, manipulation of historical records, and possibly even the planting of artifacts. Think about the scale of this: forged treaties, backdated decrees, artificial royal lineages, and even construction projects misattributed to earlier times. We're not talking about a few fibs in a dusty ledger. We're talking about rewriting the collective memory of an entire continent. The motivation behind it? Prestige. By aligning the reign of Emperor Otto III with the symbolic year 1000 AD, it would lend a prophetic, divine significance to his rule. The millennium carried powerful religious and cultural weight. Imagine the optics of being the ruler at the dawn of a new age, the chosen leader for the year 1000. Illig's evidence falls into 3 main categories. 1. Calendar discrepancies. One of the most cited elements of the phantom time hypothesis is the introduction of the Gregorian calendar in 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII. It was intended to correct a 10-day drift that had accumulated due to inaccuracies in the Julian calendar. However, Illig pointed out that the correction only accounted for about 1,300 years of drift, when it should have compensated for closer to 1,600 years. His conclusion? Approximately 300 years had been artificially inserted into the historical record. 2. Lack of architectural and archaeological evidence. Illig questions why there are so few surviving buildings from this 300-year span. While we see a wealth of Roman architecture from before this period, and a surge in medieval structures afterward, the early Middle Ages seem suspiciously sparse. Structures like the Aachen Cathedral, supposedly built under Charlemagne's rule in the 9th century, appear to be too advanced for their alleged time. Illig suggests they were actually constructed later and retroactively dated to fit into the fabricated timeline. 3. Historical inconsistencies and gaps. Illig notes what he sees as unusual stagnation during this period. The Byzantine Empire, for example, experienced long periods of cultural and political inertia. Europe's population reportedly remained static, and there was a lack of major scientific, artistic, or intellectual advancements. To him, it looked less like a lull and more like a gap, an absence artificially filled with fabricated history. And let's not forget the claim that Charlemagne himself might be a fictional figure, a carefully constructed symbol designed to anchor the fabricated years. Despite coins and documents bearing his name, Illig posits that these artifacts were either forged or misdated. It's a radical notion, but let's indulge the theory for a moment. Imagine you're a medieval ruler with absolute power, surrounded by scribes and priests who control the written word. Could you really reshape the past and get away with it? After all, the average person in the 10th century didn't have access to libraries or historical documents. Knowledge was concentrated in monasteries and palaces. But before we all start tearing up our history textbooks, let's consider the evidence against this theory. Most historians argue that the phantom time hypothesis doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Astronomical records. One of the strongest rebuttals comes from astronomy. Ancient and medieval scholars carefully recorded eclipses and celestial events. Modern scientists can project these events backward with remarkable accuracy. The problem for Illig? Eclipses and planetary alignments reported during the supposed phantom centuries match perfectly with modern astronomical calculations. If those years were invented, the sky wouldn't line up. Global historical timelines. While the phantom time hypothesis focuses on Europe, other regions like China and the Islamic world maintain detailed and continuous historical records during the same period. Their calendars, artifacts, and events align consistently with those of Europe. It would take a global conspiracy of epic proportions to fabricate all of these timelines in perfect harmony. Material culture and continuity. From coins to manuscripts to everyday tools, archaeologists have uncovered ample material evidence that supports a continuous historical record through the early Middle Ages. These findings match with radiocarbon dating and dendrochronology, tree ring dating, providing a scientifically verifiable timeline that contradicts the idea of a 300-year gap. So why does the theory still captivate some minds? Because it taps into a broader question. How do we know what we know? History, after all, is a human construct, a story told through the surviving whispers of those who came before us. Documents can be forged, artifacts can be misdated, narratives can be manipulated, and the Middle Ages, particularly the early Middle Ages, are genuinely mysterious. Few surviving records, limited literacy, and a shift in power structures all contribute to a period that feels shadowy and remote. It's the perfect breeding ground for alternative theories. Even if the phantom time hypothesis doesn't hold up, it reminds us to stay curious and skeptical. It encourages us to question dominant narratives and dig deeper into the assumptions that shape our understanding of the past. It's also become a fascinating pop culture trope. From science fiction novels exploring alternate timelines to shows like Doctor Who and Dark that delve into the manipulation of time, the idea that history isn't quite what it seems resonates with our imagination. Even games like Assassin's Creed play with these themes, rewriting history, questioning reality, and uncovering conspiracies. So, what if, just for a moment, we consider that Illig was right? That we're not in 2025, but actually in 1725? That all of our timekeeping, all of our understanding of medieval Europe is based on a fabricated framework? Would we even be able to tell? The truth is, probably not. Most of us rely on historians, scientists, and educators to interpret the past. But if those interpretations are based on flawed foundations, then the entire edifice of history becomes a bit shaky. Ultimately, the phantom time hypothesis probably isn't true, but it's a reminder that history is not set in stone. It's a story constantly being revised, challenged, and re examined. And that's what makes it so endlessly fascinating. So, what do you think? Is the phantom time hypothesis a brilliant thought experiment, a misunderstood critique of medieval historiography, or just one more entertaining conspiracy theory to file alongside Atlantis and ancient aliens? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're into uncovering hidden histories, ancient mysteries, and weird what ifs, be sure to subscribe.